Shabbat shalom, Neil.
Shabbat shalom, guys.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom, Cheryl.
Shabbat shalom.
Just watching Final Jeopardy here. Hold on.
Shalom. I'm going to co-host you, Cheryl,
Okay,
if you don't mind. And I know I owe you a call. I'm sorry.
that's okay. No, fine. I saw I just sent you a message.
Hmm?
I just sent you a message.
Oh, yeah, got it.
Okay.
Thank you. But let's touch base next week. This one, I'm like, let's just say Shabbat can't come soon enough.
Okay.
Like right about now would be good.
Yeah. Okay, no problem. I'll
All
talk
right.
to you Monday. I'll talk to you Monday.
Okay, talk to you Tuesday. I'm off Monday.
Oh, Tuesday. Okay, I'll talk to
Sunday
you.
or Tuesday. You can have me either one. All right, guys, I'm going to go off camera.
How you feeling, Neil?
I'm making slow improvement.
Oh,
I'm
good.
able to maybe take one step now without my walker.
Gosh.
Yeah, it's sciatica, and it's a long process.
Yeah. My neighbor just somebody had an operation for that.
Yeah, well, I don't think it's severe
Yeah,
enough.
you
that
don't
I
think it's
need-
to that point, but I'm just saying it's.
No,
the
I don't
second-
think so. Yeah, but it's got me down for the count for a couple of weeks already.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah,
What's going
yeah,
on?
but thank goodness for Zoom.
Very painful.
Yeah.
Neil, you okay?
Who's that talking?
Lisa.
Oh, hi, yeah, Lisa, I got sciatica.
Oh,
I am down for the count right now. I can't even take a step.
can you get
Uh,
shots? Can you get insulin shots?
I'm having an MRI next week, and we'll see what the next step is. Right now, I'm on prednisone and painkillers, so
Yep. Oh, I'm so sorry.
that's where we live. That's where we are right now.
Yep.
But hey, could be worse.
Always.
Could be worse. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you for your concern.
Of course.
Hmm. Like they say, it sucks to get old, right?
Still beats
Exactly.
the alternative.
Yeah, right. It beats not getting older. Right?
That's
Right,
true.
right, exactly, Neil.
Yeah. All right, should be getting started momentarily here.
Who's running?
I don't know so.
I saw Lisa. I saw your son and Mrs. Maisel.
Mrs. Maisel, yeah.
We actually went back and watched it again and stopped it, just paused it right on that time, right? And there he
You're the
was.
best. You're the
Pick
best.
him
I'll
out.
tell him when I talk to him tonight.
We picked him out of the crowd there, yeah.
Where is he? In which?
He's in there for 5 seconds. They just kind of pan over him on episode 6. Wait, you're gonna laugh. Jewish mother moment. 35 minutes and 35 seconds.
No, I would.
Nice.
35 to 35:40.
Oh, that's 5 seconds. Okay.
Yeah.
Episode 6. I'm not up to that yet. So
All right, no spoilers, folks.
Well, you gave away the climax, so you know
Yeah.
Jacob's there.
Good. Love that program.
Oh, so much. As a
Isn't it
matter of fact,
great?
when he was filming, he bumped into someone that they went to Hebrew school with who was interning like some of the back,
At Beth Chaim?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sophie Bramnick.
What's the last name?
Bramnick.
Bramnick. I know that name. Okay.
Well, they're congregants.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was really funny. They hadn't seen her since Hebrew school.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, Sophie. She's like, Jacob. I gotta go run.
Good.
But yeah, it was nice.
Good.
What
Hello,
is a
Barbara.
learner's Shabbat? What is this tonight?
Well, if you pay attention, you'll learn.
I don't know.
It sounds marvelous.
She agreed, Rabbi Blum agreed to do this maybe twice, 3 times a year, where they explain the meanings of each of the prayers and how
Awesome.
it's quote unquote choreographed in the service. So pay attention. I think you'll enjoy it.
I've seen it before and I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
That's why
I
I
think
decided to come
It's
tonight.
wonderful. Yeah.
It gives everything more meaning if you actually know what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very true.
Sometimes we're just so used to doing blah, 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 blah by rote without even thinking about what we're saying.
Right. You don't know what you're saying
Right.
sometimes.
It becomes almost rote.
Hmm?
It becomes rote. You just repeat it.
Right. But now it has some meaning.
You know, years ago, I had gone to Rabbi Wisnia and I said, I want a word for word translation of the Shema, because I've been saying it since I remember being, able to speak. And I want a word to word. And every night when I go to sleep, I give it that focus.
Excellent. Lovely.
Oop, looks like we're getting started.
Yeah. And without any further ado, we hand it over to our clergy.
Well said.
Shabbat shalom, everyone.
That sounds like Dan.
That would be Dan.
Shabbat shalom.
Hey, Dan. How you doing, buddy?
I am Liz Hughes, and on behalf of Congregation Beth Chaim, it's an honor to welcome you to our service this evening as we Zoom from the sanctuary. A reminder that you are part of our security team. Please keep your eyes open. In case of emergency, please be aware that there are exits in all directions out of the sanctuary, including a door on the bima, which leads to the library. If you are wearing a hearing aid with a T-coil setting, you may access our hearing loop using your program. We do have headphones for those without that program. Large print prayer books are available as well. These are located on the table at the entrance to the sanctuary. We want to create a sacred space that will inspire prayer. Please silence or turn off your phones at this time so you will not be distracted. While we enjoy seeing your faces, if you are not vaccinated and boosted against the COVID-19 virus, please wear a mask the entire time you are in the building unless you are seated to eat. If you are on Zoom, please stay muted unless the clergy invite you to unmute and participate. We may be physically separated from one another, but we are one community in prayer and celebration. This service will be a learner service where we take some time between prayers to explain more about the meaning of our Shabbat liturgy. And this week, I just want to say I am so thankful for Shabbat. It couldn't come at a better time. Work has been crazy. Everything has been nuts. And I'm just so happy to have time to connect with friends and family, take a pause from that. And I think, we're all feeling like we're getting to some better weather. We can enjoy outside greeting meetings, whatever we feel that we need to do. And I'm just thankful to be able to do that. And I hope that you guys are all getting a chance to get together with friends and family as well. Now we can move into the sacredness of Shabbat. Please join us in song and prayer.
לברכה ולא לקללה, לשובע ולא לרזון, לברכה ולא לקללה. לברכה ולא לקללה, לשובע ולא לרזון, לברכה ולא לקללה. לחיים ולא למוות, לחיים, לחיים ולא למוות, לחיים, לחיים. לברכה ולא לקללה, לשובע ולא לרזון, לברכה ולא לקללה. לברכה
Shabbat Shalom. We are a small but mighty crowd tonight. Clearly, this is the eye of the storm. We had our Purim spiel on Wednesday. We have our Purim carnival on Sunday. And earlier this evening, we had a beautiful Purim parade with our Tot Shabbaters. But tonight, we're going to welcome in Shabbat. A little bit of respite, a little bit of quiet. And so we're going to talk.
Anyone else can't hear her?
It looks like she's frozen.
Yeah,
it's
seems
frozen.
frozen here.
Yeah, it's frozen.
Yeah, it's frozen for all of us.
We're okay. It seems like the in the temple it's frozen.
Yeah, no, we're fine. If it was us, we wouldn't see anybody else or hear anybody else.
Oh, should we run the service?
Yeah,
They
we're all moving and talking.
They probably lost internet over there. It's probably.
Oh, we just lost them.
Oh no.
Yeah, I think they lost their internet and their Wi-Fi is probably down or something.
Yeah, or
Oh.
it may have glitched for a minute though.
Well, how is everybody doing?
I wonder if they can hear us.
Well, now they can't hear us because
Hey, that was Hillary.
Yeah,
Hi,
they
Hillary.
left.
they have vacated the building. Figuratively, the Zoom building.
They lost something in the temple.
Heck
is
wonderful. Mirror on at one point.
She was.
She was. I don't see her anymore.
Yeah, I don't see her either.
She's probably in the sanctuary, and I think they lost their internet, and that's my guess that they're just offline totally.
Really?
All right,
Oh, well.
Cheryl, you're the host. Go ahead, lead the service. You're on mute.
I'm mute. You're right. I'm on mute.
Now you're there.
I do this. I don't necessarily.
Yeah.
Let's just
I'm sure they're not
Wow.
looking at their phones, but I'm texting my mom and Drew.
Is it time for Lachado D?
I was just thinking it's like
Probably.
Wakado time.
Do you know it, Neil? Let's.
I have the music here for
Get
the.
right there and get on the piano.
Piano.
Yeah, no, I think
Lechado
wait.
Dili
Yeah,
Krakala,
I'll go check and see if it's on YouTube.
Kabbalah,
YouTube. Yeah, YouTube.
Lachado
Yeah,
I'm
let me
guessing
check.
they're on.
It
I'm
says
guessing
live
that
on YouTube on mine.
Hillary, see if they
Yeah,
show
I'm
up
looking.
on YouTube or not.
I'm
Oh
thinking.
yeah, look on YouTube.
thinking
The
that their
camera's
Wi-
down. The camera. If the
I
internet's
think
down,
their
you can-
Wi-Fi's down.
You know what, Neil? Let's. But the
Oh,
Zoom.
we're on
It just
YouTube right
came
now.
back on.
Neil, are you at services?
Wait, but the Zoom's
No.
working.
No, I'm at
Yeah,
home.
we're actually, us
Okay.
talking right
Hi,
now is on
Camille.
YouTube.
Hey, Camille.
We're the
Hi,
live feed.
Dan.
Hey,
How
long
are
time
you?
no see.
Yes,
Yeah,
long
we
time
are
no
the
see.
live feed on us talking is the live feed on YouTube.
Oh, great.
Oh, we're on YouTube.
Yes,
Oh,
I
really?
saw that also.
Yeah, no shul, but us.
Great. Here we are.
No?
All right, world. Episode 6. Mrs. Mason. 35 to
There's a
30.
new,
35
there's a
minutes
new
in.
Mrs.
Handsome
Maisel
guy.
tonight.
Share the screen.
Friday night. There's
I
a new
could, but I'm
Mrs.
not host. What, Dan?
Neil, how are you feeling?
It's Friday. There's a new Mrs. Maisel.
Not so hot.
Oh, Drew says they're working on it.
Sorry.
Oh, good.
Would you-
They're
oh, you
dropping
talking to
2
Drew?
at a time.
They're working on it.
Hillary, you got Drew on the line there?
Yep, he said they're working on the internet issue.
Okay, good. All right. So let's hang
Wait,
tight.
where's
That's
the
all.
cat?
Let's just hang tight. They'll get back to us.
Hi, Camille.
We're like the
Hi.
lost people in the desert. Here's the cat.
There we go. The projector's back on. Should be back online.
We should be back on.
Yeah, I don't know. I just admitted the projector.
Well, that's promising.
Mirror's back on
No, that's
also.
positive.
Yes.
Just my the music.
When they come back, we have to undo. We have to
Yes,
mute
we
them.
have
Yeah, we'll
We're
mute.
having so much fun.
Here we go. Here's the music, the list, the songs.
All my legend.
This is page 2. Where's page 1? Here we go.
I have an old script from when I ran years ago.
I have a prayer book.
Well, that's
I
good.
have a prayer book also.
I've got the script from the 90s Shabbat.
How did everybody do
Buck
on
goes
Wordle?
rogue.
How did everybody do on Wordle today?
2. I got it in 2.
Come on.
Here comes.
I got it in 3.
We should be
There's
back.
Barbara's here.
Okay.
Hey, Barbara. Hey, Barbara.
Hi.
All right, here we are. Here we are. Everybody
Which
mute.
only emerged onto
Camille's
the
there.
Jewish scene
Wait, I just
500
did-
years ago
I
when
just
the
admitted the
mystics of
sanctuary.
Shabbat, who were mostly from
Oh,
Spain,
here we go.
but whose families had been expelled in 1492, like so many others, decided that they were going to look at Judaism in a very unique way. So in the north of Israel, there was a mystical renaissance. That Jewish mysticism, also known as Kabbalah, was really taking hold of the community, a community in exile, a community looking for answers to questions that were really large and looming. And they found new language to think of the Jewish people and to think of God. And on this, as Shabbat was setting in, as the sun was lowering in the sky, they were so excited to greet Shabbat, which they personified as a bride. Today, we're using more language of a beloved, but back when any bride, as she would enter the space where everyone was anxiously waiting for the wedding to start, it was customary to rise when she walked into the room. And so was born the custom of remaining seated for the bulk of this prayer until the very end, when we have words that reference the bride, come, and we then rise and face the entrance, just like we might at any wedding that we would attend. And the mystics of Shabbat will also wear white in it, as Shabbat would advance, also to reflect this idea of Shabbat as a bride, and that our union with Shabbat as a people represents this union that we share with God. So pages 20 and 21, we're going to stay seated for verses 1, 2, and 5. And then for verse 9, we'll rise and we'll face the entrance. And even though we may not be able to see her so clearly, we are so grateful that our beloved Shabbat is arriving soon.
יאללה לה 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 לך אדוני, יאללה לה 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 לקראת כלה, יאללה לה 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 פני שבת, פני שבת נקבל, יאללה לה 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 לך אדוני, יאללה לה 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 לקראת כלה, יאללה לה 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 פני שבת, פני שבת נקבל. שמור וזכור בדיבור אחד השמיענו אל המיוחד אדוני אחד ושמו אחד ושמו תפארת ונגדילה יאללה לה 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 לך אדוני, יאללה לה 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 לקראת כלה, יאללה לה 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 פני שבת, פני שבת תקבלה, לקראת שבת. כי מכל הברכה מראש מקדם נסוכה, סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה, יאללה לה יאללה לה לה לך אדוני, יאללה לה 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 לקראת כלה, יאללה לה 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 פני שבת, פני שבת נקבלה, עטרת בלה. עם בשמחה וצהלה, תוך אמונה, עם סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי חלה.
Invite you to turn to each other, greet each other, Shabbat Shalom. You can unmute on Zoom. You can chat in the box.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom, everybody.
Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat.
Hey, Robin, is that you? I couldn't tell with the mask. It's like, I think so. If you are boosted, you do not need them on. All right, friends, you can take a seat briefly while I talk. I'll grant you that. We're going to head into the chunk of the service known as Shema and Her Blessings, and it begins with Baruch Hu. And the word Baruch Hu means bless. And we have a blessing formula that is repeated throughout our service, throughout many of our prayers. It's familiar to many of us in this room. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam. 6 words that we find in many, many prayers in our liturgy, whether it's on Shabbat, on a weekday, before we eat a delicious meal. And the prevailing metaphor for God in the traditional blessing formula is God is king, melech. We often translate that word as sovereign or ruler now to encompass all genders of rulers. But the ancient rabbis really thought of God as a king, and they used that metaphor in Midrash. They used that metaphor in our prayers. And if you live in a place that has a king, what do you do, or what are you supposed to do when you approach the king? Bow. And so we have a lot of bowing throughout our service as this metaphor of God as king or ruler, monarchical ruler, is repeated over and over again. And so for Baruch Hu, we bend the knees. Berach is the Hebrew word for knee. Sounds a little bit like Baruch or Baruch Hu. So that's a little play on words. And so you bend at the knees on the Baruchi sounding words. And then you're supposed to straighten up when we hear God's name, the special name of the Jewish people for God, Adonai. So as we turn to Baruch Hu on page 28, I invite you to rise before our sovereign as we prepare to bow and enter into this section of our service. seated. We turn to page 34, the prayer we refer to as Shema. But the prayer that on the following even page, page 36, that we refer to as V'ahavta is really the Shema. The traditional Shema has 4 paragraphs. It was conceived of as one unit in the rabbinic imagination, and there's special choreography that accompanies this particular prayer. The first line, Shema Yisrael, listen Israel, was an inspiration for us to cover our eyes so that we could focus on the sense of sound. And so I'll often just close my eyes like this. Many people will cover their eyes with their hands, but the idea is that we want to actually embody the words that we're saying. And then when we head into the V'ahavta, those words from Torah talk about when we're supposed to do God's teaching or share God's teaching. We're supposed to teach these words before we go to bed, when we lie down, and again in the morning when we rise up. And the rabbis have a field day with what does that mean? Not only for the time of day, but also for what should be our body language when we say those words. There were rabbis who said you should stand for the Shema. There were rabbis who said you should sit for the Shema. But the prevailing argument was whatever you're doing before the Shema, you should keep doing during the Shema. And so in many more observant Jewish communities, you will see that people are sitting for the Shema because after Baruch they sit for those several prayers. And so they're sitting when the Shema arrives and they stay seated. In the Reform movement, the early reformers wanted to elevate the words of the Shema, those first 2 sentences. And so no matter what happens before Shema, they wanted everyone to rise for Shema. So, because when you're standing, you often pay a little bit better attention. So I'm going to invite everyone to choose their own adventure tonight as we turn to Shema on 34, 35. Typically, our minhag, our custom at Beth Hayim is that we're standing from Baruch to Shema, and then as soon as we shift over to V'ahavta, we sit. But if you want to play with your own tradition tonight, I invite you to do so. So pages 34, 35, if you feel comfortable closing your eyes, I invite you to do so. And if you feel compelled to stand for this liturgy, you're welcome. Or if you prefer to stay seated, that's welcome too.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai. Let לכתך בדרך, שוכבך וקומך, וקשרתם מאוד על ידיך, והיו לתודתו מניניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך, על מזוזות ביתך, ובשעריך. לה לה יה לה 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 ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם אלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
We read responsibly in the top of page 39, a reading that really ties beautifully into tonight's service theme of how we move our bodies to connect with God and to be in community. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together. Page 40.
Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 ya la la la. Mi camo capai Madonna, mi camo hanet al bakudesh, dorate hilo to sefer, dorate hilo sefer. מלכותך ראו בניך, הים מפני משה ומרים, זה עניינו ואמרו, זה עניינו ואמרו, אדוני עמו לעולם ועד, אדוני עמו ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ונהיו בין בני ישראל אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי 6 ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים, את השמיים ואת הארץ. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
The next section of our service has several names. One of its names is Ha-Tfilah, the prayer, as it is often considered to be the spiritual climax of our service, without a Torah service, but in any other service. This is what we've been building towards all this time. And that's because on weekdays, this section is called the Shemona Esrei, the 18, but just kidding, really 19 things that we are asking from God. On a weekday, we have requests of God. We are beseeching God. God, grant us with the following blessings. And on a weekday, there are 19 of them. On Shabbat, there are 7. And they're not quite as beseeching because even God should have Shabbat, but we're still begging God a little bit, especially when we are praying for peace. We're still reminding God of God's commitment to our ancestors. That doesn't take a break for Shabbat, and so on and so forth. And if we're going to beseech the King, we need to really prepare to enter God's throne room. And this is where you may often see folks taking 3 steps backwards and then 3 steps forward. And according to tradition, you always start with the right foot because they were nervous about the left. That's okay, a conversation for another time. But we step out of the human realm and into God's heavenly realm. And only once we've done that are we fully prepared to ask God for what we need. And so I invite those who are able to please rise for the Amidah, the standing prayer, because we would never go before a king seated to ask for anything. And if you want to take those 3 steps back and those 3 steps forward at the beginning of this section of our service, I invite you to do so. And then there will be another chance to step out of God's realm and return to the place of people. But we'll get to that later. Page 46, and we'll stick to the even pages.
Of course, if there's a row behind you, they have to be little steps.
You might want the symbolic or step in the aisle. Very nice, yeah, very nice.
Na 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 svatai pita. Na 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 ufiagi tihilatecha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotinu v'imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak ve'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel ve'Elohei Leah האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומל חסדים טובים, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך חוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיה הכל אתה רב להושיע, משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיה הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר, מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה לחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיה הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש.
Please be seated as it is our custom at that time, even though we're continuing with this section of the service called the Amidah. Please join me on the top of page 55. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh ha-Shabbat. We'll turn to page 58 just for the first three words, Modim Anachnu Lach, an expression of our gratitude to God for all kinds of blessings in our lives, rare or frequent, recent or since you last were here. So if anyone would like to share something they're grateful for this Shabbat, Alana. Right? We were so grateful for the Purim Spiel, the Bar Trek. We have a few folks who were in the Spiel with us tonight. Judith, we are grateful to you. Anyone else who is, and I mean, we have to thank, Sherry, thank you. I knew we had more people. Sherry Barsky, yes, all right, I think I got them all. And Tanner Biner, our fearless director and crew in one. And so for all of these blessings, we'll say thank you.
מודים אנחנו לך, מודים אנחנו לך.
Any other expressions of gratitude? Keith? That is correct. The 100th anniversary of the first bat mitzvah. All right, so what started as a revolution 100 years ago, which has become a norm in our community and a beautiful expression of how we value all of our young people entering into our community. Officially, we say thank you. Jerry. Really supportive friends and family in times of need. I saw one in the front. Bettina, was it you? Vivian, was it you? Oh, Bettina, go ahead. Ooh, Miss Hannigan and Annie, she's gonna have fun with that one. I know we have a simcha next week. So speaking of bat mitzvah, Mazel Tov to Marsha's granddaughter, who's about to become next Shabbat. And we'll pause to say thank you.
מודים אנחנו לך, מודים אנחנו לך.
Any other blessings? I was great. Oh, sorry, Mira. What? Please. Mazel tov, Benny and Lois. Woo! Woo! Yeah, Jacob. Beautiful weather, and we have another one. Oh, Mazel tov on the birth of your great granddaughter. Oh, that's so nice. All right, let's stay together.
מודים אנחנו לך, מודים אנחנו לך.
What beautiful blessings to take us into Shalom Rav, page 60. While this world does not yet know peace, we are eternal optimists, the Jewish people, and so we pray for it every week.
Shalom Rav, על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. כי אתה הוא מלך הדון, לכל השלום. כי אתה הוא מלך הדון, לכל השלום. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. וטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל, בכל עת ובכל שעה לשלומך. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. ברוך אתה אדוני, המברך את עמו, את עמו ישראל השלום. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם.
We take a few moments for silent prayer to offer up our own hopes and dreams, to sit in some quiet and find a sense of shalom, of peace.
יהיו לרצון אמרי והגיון ליבי לפניך. אדוני צורי, אדוני צורי
Our thoughts now turn to all those in our lives in need of healing, the many loved ones whose names appear on our screen tonight, and many more. I know that there are names being typed into the Zoom chat box at this moment, and I'll invite folks in our sanctuary to share names out loud as well. All those in need of healing, healing of body, mind, heart, and soul, we turn to Mishaberach as we invoke the names of our ancestors and ask God to care for all those in need of healing, just as God looked out for those who came before us.
So I did the unforgivable. I left a Hebrew word off of this slide, so I'll have to teach that word to you now. The word is hallelujah. It goes, hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. You just have to keep that going. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Keep it going.
Reform Judaism has a tumultuous relationship with prayer choreography. The early reformers tried to streamline the worship service to get rid of repetition and to make it a little more respectable, a little less chaotic. We can't all be singing different things at different times. We can't be chatting. I'm just thinking of like back in the shtetl where everybody, you know, Golda would go to talk to Shana and Shana would go to talk to God. The early reformers wanted decorum in the sanctuary. And so they excised a lot of the choreography we talked about today. The one that remained was the rising and the sitting. I wonder if they couldn't shake that element of respect that was built into that physical choreography. We also have to know that our early reformers took a lot of their cues from their Protestant neighbors who would also sometimes stand and sometimes sit. So the rising and the sitting was never removed. And it's been in recent decades, let's say over the last 50 years, where there's been a re-embrace of different traditions in the context of worship in the Reform movement, but especially in choreography. You should know about your rabbi. She was a dancer before she was a rabbi. I danced at a local dance studio, actually in Hamilton, where we have a family who dances there still. And I loved it. And my sister and I did it, and we did it for fun, and we did it competitively. And then when I went on the path of becoming a rabbi, having grown up at a more classical Reform congregation, that did not have as much embodied prayer as some other communities, I learned about all of this choreography that was baked into Jewish tradition that I had never known before. And as someone who finds meaning in how we move our bodies in space, I loved that I could incorporate these older traditions into my own prayer practice. And for me, it's not necessarily about the original metaphors that our ancestors used for God. That I don't think of God as a king on a throne in heaven somewhere, but to move my body intentionally in space while I'm reciting the prayers is a spiritual act for me in and of itself. And so it's okay if our minds disagree with the ideas being articulated in the choreography. But for me, the choreography connects me with my ancestors. The choreography helps me incorporate my entire body into praying. I think that is why this practice of shuckling that we see in more observant communities took on a hold, because it gave a physical outlet for some of the spiritual fervor that was inside. The Jews have always spoken with our hands and tried to move around. Why would prayer be any different? And so even though the reformers tried to tamp down on too much activity during services, clearly it's baked into our very being. And so we've been doing a lot of this choreography for many, many years, even if we took a little bit of a hiatus. Our next prayer, Aleinu, page 282, does draw on this idea of God as king, but instead of just a hint of it in the traditional blessing formula, the prayer Aleinu actually uses the words, and we bow down and we prostrate. It says those words. And once upon a time, we used to fully prostrate before God, especially on Rosh Hashanah, that great Aleinu, back when it was recited in the temple. And there's a beautiful midrash that even when the temple court was packed, body to body, it was standing room only, and there was barely any room to move, somehow miraculously there was still space for everyone to do the full prostration on the ground for the great Aleinu. This is a very ancient prayer. It was actually only part of the High Holy Day liturgy, but we loved it so much we put it into the everyday liturgy. And many people are familiar with the bending of the knees and the bending of our backs when we say those words, "Va'anachnu korim u'mishtachavim," and so we bow and so we prostrate. And while we don't often fully prostrate, I'll vividly remember someone in college who I used to pray with on Shabbat. The way he moved his body, he was clearly doing it with intention. And it was a beautiful choreographic move. I've never seen anyone like him bow just like he did once upon a time, those many years ago. And so when we say those words tonight, I invite you to think about however you conceive of God, however it brings you meaning to pray in community. I think it's really powerful that we're all going to be moving as one when we hit those words. We're going to rise because you need to rise in order to bow, but also anytime we open the ark, it's customary to rise as a sign of respect for the Torah, this gift from God that we're so appreciative of. And while you don't have to open the ark at Aleinu, it is our custom here at Beth Chaim and many other places as well. So as we turn to page 282, I invite you to please rise as you are able.
עלינו לשבח אדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שהוא נוטה שמיים ועושה הארץ, ומושב עיקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינת עוזו בגבי מרומים, הוא אלוהינו אין עוד. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים, לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ. ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו Ushema echad.
Please be seated. Our next prayer will be Mourner's Kaddish, page 294. At our next Mourner service, we're going to talk a lot about this prayer called Kaddish that looks a lot of different ways in our service, but I'm not going to give that away now. What I do want to let everyone know is originally the intent of this prayer was that only the mourners would rise when we would recite it. And I think that was a very intentional choice by the rabbis so that folks would know whom to console. Who is saying Kaddish for a loved one in this moment? And so who can we go to offer our condolences, to give our support, and to let them know we are there for them? The Reform movement intentionally asked everyone to rise for Mourner's Kaddish because they didn't want anyone to feel singled out. And there was, especially after World War II, this sense of communal loss that we should all be reciting Kaddish for all of the souls who were lost in the atrocities of the Holocaust. We found a middle path here at Beth Chaim as I've experimented over the years, that now I ask those who are reciting Kaddish due to Shiv'ah, the first 7 days of mourning, Shloshim, the first 30 days of mourning, or for a yard site, the anniversary of the passing of a loved one, that when the name is called, you rise at your seat. And then we'll ask everyone else to rise with you so that we know whom to console, but then we also hold each other up and have the opportunity to remember those maybe whose names were not recited. And so I'll invite those on Zoom to type into the chat box any names of people you are remembering this Shabbat as I share these names. Chris Serkis is in the period of Shiva for her father, Joseph Renix. And the following we are remembering during Shloshim, those first 30 days of mourning. Susan Brandner, mother of Andy Patz and Jacqueline Kenton. Philip London, brother of Richie Bobek. Arnold Bornstein, father of Brian Bornstein. Jack Shermer, father of Allison Lockman. And we turn to our yard sites, the anniversaries. We remember Betty Beck, Ernest Weinrich, Douglas Gerhardt, Shelley Feig, Liesel Gumpert, Hyman Haight, Herman Harris, Miriam Harris, Ruth Sacken Coleman, and Lester Coleman, Rose Ostrovsky, Muriel Katz, Rosalind Goldstein, Anita Hammond, Theodore Linton, Norma Glassman, Lou Hamowitz, Victoria Gruber, Tessie Nagler, Lillian Badak, Louis Pretzfelder, Sophie Rackbuck, Daniel Brinbaugh, Bertram Zeldin, Leanne Horenstein, Jennifer Lynn Pruden, Helen Trink, Herbert Weiss, Bernard Friedman, Blossom Katz Malik, Thelma Konowitz, George Deutsch, Stephen Schiffer, Arthur Schwartz, and Albert Small. And now we rise as one community as we recite the words on page 294 together. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, v'alma divrach yirtei v'amlich malchutei, b'chayechon uvyomechon, u'chayei techol beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'bizman kari v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach, ve'alam u'almei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yipa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, V'yitadar, v'yitale, v'yitalal, shemei dekudisha, brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tush b'chata v'nechemata, da'amiran v'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom v'imrama, hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, Yimru, amen. And so we finally exit God's throne room. Many will take 3 steps backward at the end, Oseh Shalom, and bow one more time in deference, and then re-enter our world, our realm. Zichronam livracha. May the memory of all of our loved ones be a blessing. I invite you to please be seated, as I believe Ken is sharing a few announcements with us.
Thank you so much to Rabbi Blum and Cantor Binder for another beautiful and edifying Learners Shabbat service. We hope you found this experience to be fun, uplifting, and meaningful. I certainly did. Thank you to Mira Brzozowski, Adria Sherman, and Cheryl Wexler for your assistance as tech experts tonight. I am Ken Pogrob, representing the Board of Trustees. Liz and I are happy to speak with you and answer any questions you may have or listen to any comments about the synagogue after the service. Please stay for Oneg Shabbat in the social hall. It's a fun, creative weekend at Congregation Beth Chaim. Torah studies held every Shabbat morning at 8:45, in person and in Zoom. There is a Bar Mitzvah family class on Saturday morning at 9. Religious school meets on Sunday in person at 9. The gift shop will be open for all your Passover needs on Sunday from 9 to 12:30 and also on Sunday, April 3rd. The Var Trek Purim Palooza is back in person on Sunday morning from 10 to 1. Beth Chaim needs leaders like you. The nominating committee is conducting interviews over the next week. It's not too late to step forward. Please contact yours truly as soon as possible if you are interested. Thank you for everyone who cast a ballot. The 2022 Congregation Beth Chaim amended constitution has passed. A good accomplishment for our 50th anniversary. So there's a lot going on this year. We are an active, inclusive, and diverse congregation. Please check our website, bethchaim.org, to see a listing of all our many classes, meetings, and activities throughout the week. Shabbat Shalom. Stay safe. It says stay warm, but it's pretty warm out, so stay comfortable.
Thanks, Ken. We're going to turn to the top of page 302 for Motzi. So glad to have the challah back in the house, as we're going to head to Oneg shortly.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
Amen.
We'll be closing with the closing lines of the Kaddish. So if you lost the page, it's on page 294. Oseh shalom bimromav.
Oseh shalom shalom bimromav, uyaseh shalom aleinu. Ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. Hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, amen. Oseh shalom shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. Hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, amen. Oseh shalom shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, amen.
Since Rabbi Beal is with us, it's now our custom to end our service with the priestly benediction. In the days of the temple, it was the job of the priests who served in the temple and these holy precincts to lift up their hands, not as Spock, who got it from them, but in this sacred hand pose. As, yep, if you can, I remember being a little girl after I learned about this and practicing. And this is how they would hold their hands, often underneath their talit, as they would offer up these words that are from the Torah. Fast forward to the Reform movement, who believed very strongly in a more egalitarian hierarchy among the Jewish people, that you didn't have to be born a Levite or born a Kohen to have access to this powerful blessing and these powerful words. And aren't we a kingdom of priests, as it says in the Torah? And many Reform rabbis took it upon themselves to use this sacred choreography when they would offer up these holy words. And then my generation comes along and said, that's not for me. So that's why you haven't seen me do it, even though Rabbi Wisnia did, because he was of the school that everyone had access. And tonight I'm going to channel him as I hold out my hands in the sacred pose. And I'm going to invite anyone who'd like to join me as Cantor and I offer up these words of blessing for all of you, as you're able, because it is a little tricksy, because we are a community that is special to God, and we all have access to this blessing.
Yevarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha.
May God bless us and protect us.
Yaher Adonai panav elecha v'chunecha.
May God's light shine upon us, and may God be gracious to us.
Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom.
May we always feel that God's presence is near, and may we be blessed with the greatest gift of all, the gift of peace.
Amen.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom, everybody.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom, everybody.
Shabbat
Have a
shalom,
great week.
everyone.
Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Shabbat shalom.
Hey, Dan, Barbara. Hey,
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
hey.
City streets.
These streets.
Right.
Do it.
Can't leave them out.
48 Mandrake. Come on over for beer.
Okay.
I
I
could
have
play
to-